Hello and welcome to the Dash to the Draft podcast brought to you by ArmchairAllAmericans.com. I'm Matt Martinez, joined as always by Grant Baker and Rob Paul. And the draft is over, and now it's time to look back. So we all know the draft was this weekend, and it started on Thursday, and it started out kind of with a bang. The Browns took Myles Garrett, number 1 overall, no surprise. And because it was no surprise, everyone's been speculating that the draft is going to start with the San Francisco 49ers. And it kind of did, but it also kind of didn't. Chicago Bears traded up from the number 3 pick up to the number 2, and they took quarterback Mitch Trubisky. Now, Grant, you think that the 49ers had one of the best drafts this year, and I'm sure that this trade had something to do with that. So do you want to go ahead and give us your thoughts?
Yeah. So I had Mitchell Trubisky 36th on my big board. The Chicago Bears traded up 1 pick, didn't give up a massive bounty or anything, gave up 2/3 and a 1/4, I believe is what it was, for that pick. So not as bad as the Goff and Wentz trades last year, the Robert Griffin hijacking a couple years ago. But you took a guy who played 98% of his snaps in college out of the shotgun, is a 1-year starter, and if you look at the track record of 1-year starters, that does not bode well for Trubisky at all. I think the only successful ones that are 1-year starters in the NFL right now, Cam Newton is a technical 1-year starter, even though he did play a year at JUCO before going to Auburn. And Ryan Tannehill had about 17 or 18 starts across 2 years at Texas A&M. Other than those guys, there's really not a successful 1-year starter, and that's if you count Ryan Tannehill as successful. I'm worried about his overall arm talent. I think he was accurate in the system in North Carolina when every other play was either a bubble screen or a slant. But, I mean, that doesn't require a lot of talent to do that. He does have good mobility. However, I am very, very worried about his ability to run a pro offense, his ability to take on the pressure of being the number 2 overall pick in Chicago, which is not necessarily the friendliest city. Nothing against Chicago, but they care a lot about the Bears. And if Mike Glennon's not playing well in this first season or he gets hurt, they're going to be clamoring for Trubisky, and they're going to be clamoring for him to play well. So I think what San Francisco did was incredibly genius, forcing the Bears to basically bid against themselves and move up, and then take Solomon Thomas, very good player, 3rd overall, and get a couple of his picks as well.
Okay. Rob, do you have any thoughts on it?
Basically, you're trading up 1 spot, giving away in a pretty deep class, you're giving away a 3rd-round pick that has a lot of value. And in my opinion, Trubisky's ceiling is Alex Smith, which Alex Smith is a good starting quarterback in the NFL. But with the 2nd overall pick, you're taking Alex Smith. And Alex Smith succeeding because Andy Reid tailored his offense towards him. And like Grant was talking about with North Carolina's offense, it was very quarterback-friendly for Trubisky. And so Chicago's going to need to, really, I think, cater their offense towards Trubisky, at least early on. Also, I think it's insane that apparently John Fox didn't know Trubisky was going to be the pick when Ryan Pace had known for weeks or something.
Yeah, and I guess to me that's my biggest issue with that, because I can understand if Trubisky is their guy, is the guy they want to take, then I can understand trading up, even if it's just for 1 spot and you're giving away resources because you think that is your guy and you think he's the franchise quarterback. But I think throwing a rookie quarterback, especially one as kind of unproven as Trubisky, into that kind of, I don't know if I want to call it dysfunction just yet, but
lack of talent is very fair.
Yeah, but I mean, even just John Fox, it seems like John Fox doesn't want Trubisky.
Well, Jay Cutler and Mitchell Trubisky are very, very different quarterbacks. I just want to clarify that as well.
Yeah.
Very different quarterbacks. Like Rob said, his ceiling is Alex Smith. Not he's going to be Alex Smith. His ceiling is Alex Smith. And Alex Smith obviously is a very protect the ball, don't turn it over, mobile, short yard, move the sticks. Whereas Jay Cutler is chuck it, Mr. Javelin champion with the arm strength, and make a lot of bad decisions. So Chicago, the Bears did a lot more scouting than all three of us put together did, obviously. So they know more about Trubisky, and they know him more in depth than we do. So it's really not necessarily fair for us to question him, but we aren't the only ones doing it. I mean, every sports network scout is putting up big, big question marks on this trade, because I don't understand why Trubisky was the number one quarterback in this class. I understand why he might be number 2 or number 3, but I don't see what does he do better than Deshaun Watson? You know, like, I understand if you want to put him over Kaiser or Mahomes because he's a little bit more polished, he's more accurate than those guys are. But is he much more accurate than Watson, Rob, from what you saw? Because from what I saw, I mean, it might have been a slight difference, but it was not a game-changing difference.
The thing was with Watson was asked to make a lot more big throws than Trubisky. Like, you could put on North Carolina tape and watch Trubisky throw 10 bubble screens every single game. Like, it's just a lot of easy throws for him. While Watson, just throwing the Alabama tape, I know it's like kind of annoying that everyone always watch Watson versus Alabama, but watch what he does against the best defense I've seen in college football in a long time.
And the reason for the Bama tape is not only because he's playing against the best defense, the offense that they run against Bama and the reads and progressions he makes against Bama are more similar to a pro-style passing attack than what they did in ACC conference play. I don't know why they didn't do it the whole time, whenever obviously they're putting up 40 points on Alabama in back-to-back games. But in the Bama tape, he does more pro-style things, goes through more progression, reads more people, throws in anticipation than he did in the regular season. The other thing is, like I said, the one-year starter. Trubisky's a one-year starter. Deshaun Watson is a proven leader, winner, and he's got much more experience than Trubisky does. So not only do you trade up to take a quarterback that, like I said, I had a 36th overall on my board grade on him, if you will. You're taking the guy that I don't think, and that most didn't think was the number one guy in this class at his own position. So,
yeah, like I said, or like you said, the Bears have done more scouting on these guys than we have. So I can understand them, for whatever reason, liking Trubisky more and trading up to get their guy. I just don't really like the situation that he's going to be going into. So, Grant, like I said, do you think the 49ers had one of the top drafts this year? So do you want to go ahead and tell us why?
Right. Well, to be clear, they weren't the only good draft this year. A lot of teams I thought had really, really good drafts. Dallas had a really good draft. They got a lot of guys at good value. Tampa Bay got some good value on some guys. But for the 49ers, not only do you start off making that move to trade back and give the Bears Trubisky, you get Solomon Thomas with the 3rd pick in the draft. A lot of people have compared him to Michael Bennett because of the way that he winds up on 1st and 2nd down and kicks inside. I also like a comparison to Brandon Graham. I know that Graham is more talented as an actual edge rusher, but as far as that kind of explosive ability for a guy that's slightly smaller, I really like it. At pick 31, you get Reuben Foster. And if you were like me, it seems like every fan of every team in the NFL is disappointed they did not get Reuben Foster in this draft. The problem was not his dilute sample at the combine. The problem was his medical. I believe it was a shoulder issue, much like Jonathan Allen. And then in the 3rd round, they had 2 picks in the 3rd round. They took Ahkello Witherspoon out of Colorado. I liked Witherspoon. I think I had a late 2nd grade on him. He was probably my 7th or 8th corner. My problem with Witherspoon is he's not a very good tackler. And by not a very good tackler, he's an atrocious tackler. Michigan ran right at him and had tremendous success in their game against them. But as far as a cover corner goes, the length, the ball skills, the speed, I think he's really, really good. Had a ton of pass breakups. Their compensatory pick, they got C.J. Beathard. For me, career backup, but a very, very good career backup. A guy that you're really happy that you have, like Matt Castle. Joe Williams from Utah, really good running back. Some off-the-field stuff for when he retired and came back, but that's mainly because of family tragedy. He did have a great offensive line at Utah, but he has a lot of potential as a runner. 5th round, they got George Kittle. I had a 3rd round grade on Kittle. A-plus blocker, best blocking tight end I've seen in the last 2 or 3 years for sure. In the 5th round, that's awesome value. And then DJ Jones in round 6. Whenever we did our defensive tackles, defensive line episode, I mentioned DJ Jones as my sleeper just because he's so big and he's such a good athlete. So to get all of those guys, especially all those defensive guys that they got to build their defense, I thought was really, really great.
Yeah, it's interesting how CJ Beathard was the first Iowa player to get drafted.
Very interesting. Over Jaleel Johnson and Desmond King and a couple other guys. That was very, very interesting.
Yeah, I was upset because I really like Desmond King and George Kittle. Okay, Rob, Grant told us about the 49ers. Who do you think had one of the better drafts?
So I have the New Orleans Saints written down here, and I saw a lot of stuff on Twitter, kind of like ripping on the Saints how they didn't get their guys because they wanted Mahomes, and the Chiefs traded in front of them and took Mahomes at 10, and then they wanted Reuben Foster, and were actually on the phone with him to pick him at 32, but the 49ers traded in front of them there and took him at 31. And I saw this like pessimistic, like these pessimistic tweets about the Saints draft because they missed out on their 2 guys, but they end up with the best corner in the draft with Marshawn Lattimore, who fits their biggest need at pick 11 when he's a top 5 player. And then they miss out on Reuben Foster, but they still get the tackle who I think has the highest floor in Ryan Ramczyk at the end of the 1st round, and he's a plug-and-play guard or tackle for them right away. And then in the 2nd round, they take Marcus Williams, from the safety from Utah. He gives them a single high safety with great range that allows them to play Kenny Vaccaro and Von Bell in the box or as nickels, because both those guys are quite versatile safeties, and the Saints like to play 3 safeties a lot. And so I thought that was a really nice pick. And then my favorite pick they made was picking up Alvin Kamara in the 3rd round. And I know it wasn't a need for them with Mark Ingram and Adrian Peterson, but he's a great value pick in the 3rd round. I had a 1st round grade on him. And he's ideal for Sean Payton as the pass catching back he loves. And he gives them the perfect 3rd down running back because Adrian Peterson doesn't really add anything on passing downs. And Mark Ingram's okay, but Kamara's a really nice fit for Sean Payton there. And then they pick up a starting weak side linebacker with Alex Anzalone, the Florida linebacker, and an edge rusher with great athletic traits in Trey Hendrickson, both in the 3rd round. And then with their final pick in the 6th round, they take a low-risk, high-reward player in edge. I can't say his name. Al-Qaeda Muhammad from Miami.
Al-Qaeda Muhammad.
There it is. And he got kicked off Miami prior to the season, but he's like, had he not, he was a borderline like 3rd round type guy, I think. And so I thought that was a solid low risk, high reward pick in the 6th round. And so in my eyes, they came in with 4 defensive players that will make major contributions as rookies. They get a starting offensive lineman and a running back perfect for their scheme, and then Muhammad's an edge that should make their roster. So I really like their draft.
The thing about Kamara is, real quick, they talk about, oh, you just got Adrian Peterson, you already have Mark Ingram. Mark Ingram has not been a great NFL running back. He's been a very average NFL running back, in my opinion. And then Adrian Peterson, realistically, I think he's going to be gone in a year or 2. So getting Kamara, who I think is my 19th or 20th overall player in this draft in the 3rd round, awesome value. Awesome value.
Yeah, I think Kamara really suffered from splitting carries at Tennessee. I think if he had like a year and a half as like a full-time ball carrier, I think it would have gone a lot higher.
I watched him against Vanderbilt, which is one of the best coached defenses in football. Maybe not from talent, but from coaching perspective, certainly is. He just dominated them. I mean, they couldn't do anything to stop him. He was breaking tackles over the field. They couldn't hold him back. He almost single-handedly won Tennessee the game.
Yeah, like I said, I thought he should have gone a lot higher. Okay, so I thought that the Minnesota Vikings had one of the better drafts, particularly because they didn't have a 1st-round pick. But they still landed a top talent in Dalvin Cook. who fell because of, I guess, teams didn't like the people he hung out with. He also has some other character concerns. I mean, let's be honest. But he fell purely because of character concerns. Talent-wise, he's the best all-around running back in the class.
Top 15 talent.
Yeah, absolutely. And to get him at pick 41 in the second round, 41 overall in the second round is just amazing. And then they went and they got Pat Elflein in the third round, who can be a starting center in the league.
He's a plug. I think he's plug and play. He's a really good leader too. He's an excellent leader at Ohio State, and everybody that's been through that program talked about how great his work ethic was.
Yeah, and he's kind of nasty too.
Yeah, he's got a high football IQ, and I think he's the best center in the class. Like, that was a really nice pick for them.
Yeah, and I thought Pat Elflein would go in the second round, and just like I thought their fourth round pick, Jaleel Johnson, I thought he'd go in the third round. So I think they got three guys in a row a round later, if that makes sense. That makes sense.
I was really surprised when Johnson fell out of the third. I thought he was going to be in the first 5-10 picks of the third round, if not the late second round.
Yeah, and so they replaced Adrian Peterson, and at this point they upgraded Adrian Peterson because now they have a way to expand their offense, and then their offensive line has been a mess, and they got a brand new center who's going to be able to start right away, and they're improving on their defense. Then they got Danny Isidora. Is that how you say it? I don't care. Who can develop into a future starter, and they got Bucky Hodges in the sixth. I don't know where you guys had him rated, but it was for me, it wasn't sixth round.
Yeah, I had him as a third round type of guy.
I did too. The fact that he went to the combine and didn't know how to get into a 3-point stance is pretty worrying to a lot of teams.
But even if you just want to turn him into a big receiver, that'll work.
Well, especially the value of him in the sixth round is crazy.
Yeah, the Vikings don't have great wide receivers right now. They have Stephon Diggs. And,
who wasn't that good last year. Or wasn't as good last year. And then Laquan Treadwell caught, I think, one pass in his rookie year. He couldn't even get on the field. I think, from what I heard, he did not know the playbook, which is incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's brutal.
As a receiver, you don't have to know necessarily, you just have to know what routes to run on what play, right? That's 90% of it. It's not like you have to memorize what the right guard's doing on every given play, like the quarterback. If the quarterback had issues running the playbook in his first year, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But he's a receiver, man. If they say, twins left, X post or whatever, and you're the X, do you not understand that means you're running a post out of twins left? I don't think it's that difficult. I don't know. I've never been in an NFL locker room, so.
Yeah, neither have I. I won't comment on that. But, the way they've just kind of made these picks to expand their offense, because last season it was just a lot of quick, easy, short routes, and Sam Bradford did well in that offense, but now they can expand on that.
They also picked two speedster receivers with Rodney Adams and Stacy Coley, who I thought would be nice compliments to the receivers they do have.
Yeah, and Elijah Lee, who I thought would go.
Yeah, I thought he
not debut, but fifth round. They got him in the seventh.
Yeah, it was a good pick.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on, we talked about who we thought had one of the best drafts. Let's move on to who we thought had one of the worst. So, Rob, do you want to go ahead and start us off with that?
Yep, so I have the easy choice, the Chicago Bears. So they trade up the one spot for a quarterback in Mitch Trubisky, who none of us and most people don't think was worth a top 10 pick.
One more thing to jump in on Trubisky right quick. I don't mean to cut you off. We forgot to mention, he went to John Gruden's quarterback camp and did not know what a hard count was. How do you not know what a hard count is?
That's so brutal. High school QBs
my sister just turned 14, has never played a down of football in her life. If I asked her what a hard count was, she'd know what it is. How do you not know what a hard count is as a first-round quarterback prospect? I can't get over this. How do you not know what a hard count? This cannot show to me anymore that he is nowhere near ready to play in the NFL.
That's why they have Mike Glennon. It's perfect.
Right. They need a lot more than Mike Glennon.
So they trade up one pick for Mitch Trubisky, who I think ceiling's Alex Smith, and I'm saying ceiling. That's not a good thing. Like he's a second round QB probably in a good quarterback draft. So then whatever, they make that awful pick. Then in round 2, they come back. They take tight end Adam Shaheen from Ashland. Meanwhile, tight ends who I think are more talented than him are lasting till round 5, like George Kittle, like Jordan Leggett. There's like, he went so high, and we've talked about before. We don't have all the tape on Shaheen, but the tape we've seen, he doesn't dominate competition like Cooper Kupp did at Eastern Washington.
That's a really nice way of putting it, dude. Like he I watched him and I was like, all right, he's 6'6", 280. He really is not a great blocker. Oh, he just dropped a wide open touchdown pass. I mean, sure, he's got pretty quick feet for someone that's 6'6", but are you going to spend a second-round pick when you just gave up a couple other picks to get that?
He's the opposite.
Loaded tight end draft?
He's the opposite of Corey Davis. Because Corey Davis dominated
like lower level opponents.
He was playing Wayne State, and he was barely getting separation. Like I can't give you that day 2 pick, man. I'm sorry. Anyway, continue, Rob. I don't mean to cut you off every time you talk.
It's just the Bears draft's that brutal. Then with their 4th round pick, they took a running back who I admittedly like, Tariq Cohen from NC-A&T, who I like him, but in the 4th round, and he's a bit player. He's like a scat back return man. He's 5'6", like 170. He's so small. And I just think in round 4 is just way too early for my liking to take him. And then in round 5, they take a project guard and Jordan Morgan from Kutztown. Like, all their picks just seem like Cohen, Morgan, and Shaheen aren't Division 1A guys. They're all lower level, which is really weird that you have 3 of them in one draft. So they're all projects. Trubisky, I think, is just belligerently high to take that guy. And then the only pick I actually did like was them taking Eddie Jackson, the Alabama safety, in round 4. But it was overall a pretty, like, most of these guys aren't going to be able to contribute as rookies.
They're not going to be able to contribute as veterans. They suck. They had an awful draft.
Yeah, I think Shaheen is a pure potential pick, but 2nd round is way too high for that kind of guy. Okay. So Grant, what about who did you think kind of did not have a great draft?
So I'm an Oakland Raiders fan, and I try not to let that bias me, but I was watching the 1st round at a local restaurant, and it got to pick 10, and there were some great players on the board. And then Kansas City traded up, and I was very nervous because I thought they were moving up to get Reuben Foster and replace Derek Johnson as their beast middle linebacker. I thought they were going to get Jonathan Allen to replace Dantari Poe and just have a dominant defensive line again. I thought they were going to get Marshawn Lattimore and have a phenomenal corner across from Mark Speeders. I was sweating it out. And then Goodell goes to the podium, 10th pick, Patrick Mahomes. And my dad and I, who are both Raider fans, stood up and went, yes, they made an awful pick. Not only did they take Patrick Mahomes, another project, 49th on my board, my top 100 board, 49th. They gave the 1st round pick next year to do that, which was very interesting, very, very interesting to me. And then in the 2nd round, they take Tano Passanio, and I'm pretty sure I'm saying that right, but I mean, Passanio is a very difficult name to say. Project defensive end, so 6'7", ridiculously long arms, like 290 pounds, and could probably add weight, and it wouldn't be a huge deal. But he played at Villanova, and he's not super duper explosive. He just got great physical length. And then later on, their late round picks really didn't impress me that much either. Kareem Hunt was a good pick, 3rd round running back, really good balance. I think he could be an RB1 at the next level. Jehu Chesson in the 4th round, fine. Leon McQuay did not scout him from USC. Just their day 3 picks, they didn't get anybody of like absurd value. So they basically said, even though they're a playoff team now and they just swept the AFC West last year, the best division in football, they are now looking to the future already with almost every pick in this draft, which was very, very surprising to me. So they might come out with one or no starters in this draft for their team.
Yeah, like with Trubisky, I understand trading up for Mahomes, and if he turns into if he reaches the potential, then he's a franchise guy. But yeah, I thought
they loved Mahomes. The Chiefs had loved him since like September, October, and with Mahomes, you get that awesome upside. Like I get that you would want him to sit behind Alex Smith for a couple of years and develop that howitzer into a little bit more of an accurate weapon and not make as many horrendous decisions. I get that. So I'm not as mad about that pick as a Trubisky pick. But they moved up to 10. They had all that defensive talent there, and they took Mahomes. I thought they're just 1 or 2 pieces away from being a legitimate Super Bowl contender, if not favorite. They are a loaded roster. And they basically said, we're picking for the future right now. That's what really shocks me about all of this. If a team that was not as good had done something like this, I wouldn't be as upset about it. But with the Chiefs, who are a very good team, basically saying we're picking for 3, 4, 5 years down the road, like your window is kind of open and it's really starting to close. Anyway, it could turn out phenomenal and I could look like an idiot in 3 years, but I didn't think it was a great draft.
Yeah, I think that's a really good fit though for Patrick Mahomes.
Andy Reid, quarterback whisperer as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Okay. And what about – oh, wait, we already did Robert.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, okay, so for me, I thought the Rams had a really bad draft because that roster is full of holes, and they didn't have a first-round pick. So what do? They take they take Gerald Everett, the tight end. In this kind of a deep class, without a first-round pick, you're going to take a tight end?
A project tight end from South Alabama, specifically.
It's like the same argument as why did the Bears take Shaheen so early?
Except Everett has more than like 2 years experience in football.
Yeah, I'm way higher on Everett, but you know what I mean?
He's much more developed as a route runner and pass catcher.
I mean, And even just tight end is such a – like you can get by without an elite tight end.
It's not a money position at all. Your money
not.
Positions are quarterback, offensive tackle, pass rusher, and corner. Those are your 4 money positions, the really, really big ones. Tight end is one of the least important ones on that list.
Sean McVay's just trying to find – because he was the tight end coach in Washington when he developed Jordan Reed, and then the OC in Washington with Jordan Reed booming. I think he made that pick just because he really wants his own Jordan Reed.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that, but it's just the positional value that it offers is just not good, and their offensive line is atrocious. And
the guy that I feel bad for is Aaron Donald. I can make the argument right now. Aaron Donald at throwing out position is the best pure football player in the NFL, and they gave him no help. Robert Quinn's a good player too, but he is the only guy that gives them any chance in most of their games. I watch Rams games just to watch Aaron Donald. He's that good, but he can't get any help, and I feel really bad for him.
Yeah, and they took Cooper Kupp, who I'm down on because I don't think I think his lack of speed is going to hurt him a lot. He's a really good route runner, but I think his lack of speed is going to hurt him. He
is tremendously polished as a route runner. He does things that you don't necessarily see unless you're really looking for it on tape. He does something called stacking on DBs when he runs his routes. So when you get past the defensive back, what you're supposed to do is stand in front of him and cut him off from the ball. That's called stacking on a DB. He stems his routes really well. It's really hard to tell what he's doing. And he's very physical with getting off of press when he's running routes. So very polished as a route runner.
And I can absolutely see him doing well as like a really like a complimentary player, but I don't think the Rams have the personnel that's gonna allow them to succeed. I like John Johnson and I like Josh Reynolds, but I thought Samson Abukum in the 4th round was a reach, and they ended up taking a fullback in the 6th round. Although they did get a Juan Price in the 7th, who I thought could go a lot higher. But I mean, overall, they didn't do anything really to impact their team.
Just to play devil's advocate, I think they're really trying to get McVay the wide open offense that he wants, and that's why they used the first 3. Was it the first 3 picks on pass catchers? Reynolds, Kupp, and Everett. Because I don't know. Although doing that makes the Robert Woods belligerent contract look worse, because I don't know why they did that, but I think like the idea there was to try and get McVay the offensive weapons he wants, whether you like the picks or not.
Well, not just McVay, Jared Goff as well. They're trying to build confidence as much as possible.
I think their offense is going to be a lot more spread and open to help Goff this year, and that's why they made those picks. Whether it works out or not, I don't know, but that's what the direction I think they were trying to go there.
Yeah, it's going to be hard with Goff on his back the entire time, though. All right, so let's go ahead and move on then to, real quick, because we're kind of running out of time. Why don't we go into some kind of reaches and slides? Just guys we thought teams reached on, or guys who slid in the draft. So we're going to go ahead and start with you, Grant. Who do you think were guys who were reached on?
So obviously Mitchell Trubisky at number 1 and Shaheen for the Bears we've talked about. I thought Tease Tabor in the 2nd round was really a reach. Not only did he run absolutely horrendously at the combine in his pro day, at one he ran in the 4.6s, another he ran in the 4.7s, which is really, really rough. I didn't like his attitude whenever he was at the combine, and he had good tape, but I think that in a secondary deep class as it was, he was not worth a 2nd round pick. And then John Ross at 9th overall. I like John Ross. I had him, I think, at 16th or 17th on my board. I can't remember for sure. But the durability concerns were a big, big issue for me. And for the Bengals to take him at 9, when you already have downfield threats at receiver and you have much bigger holes, especially in your defense, when there were guys there that were perfect fits for your defense, was really, really questionable for me.
Okay, and what about you, Rob?
So I also have Trubisky and Shaheen written down here. Mahomes as well. I really, really dislike that Mahomes pick. Basically using 2 first-round picks to trade up for a guy who's a complete project with awful mechanics, terrible footwork. And I know you love him, Matt. And I think you're right in saying the Chiefs are probably the best situation for him to go into, just because Andy Reid's known for adjusting his offense to the player, which is genius, what more coaches should do. But I thought that was a big reach there at 10. Him going ahead of Watson, I thought was crazy. And I have Gerald Everett written down here as well, because I had a late 3rd grade on him. And in the tight end deep class, where more talented tight ends in my eyes fell to the 5th round, I thought that was a big reach there in round 2.
Yeah, Lubbock was crazy when Patrick Mahomes got drafted. He was awesome. Everyone was super excited. Yeah, it was great. And there were some places where they were doing like $2 draft beers until Patrick Mahomes got drafted. So it was fun. So I thought that, we already talked about Tano Passignon. I don't know how to say it. Going at 59 to the Chiefs, I thought that was a reach. I thought he probably should have gone a lot later. I thought Curtis Samuel going in the 2nd round. I think the Panthers just kind of fell in love with his speed.
Stonehands Curtis Samuel, as I've been calling
him. Well, I mean, to be fair, they needed a replacement for Ted Ginn Jr.
There you go.
So that's exactly who he reminds me of. He ran a 4.33, but can't really catch.
Yeah, Will Fuller last year is the exact same thing for me. Amazing speed, bad hands.
yeah.
Sorry, continue.
And then I'm hesitant to call it a reach, but I know a lot of people weren't expecting Adoree Jackson to go at 18. But I mean, I understand why the Titans would take him that high, just because if they didn't have a second round pick and they needed defensive back help, if he's their guy, might as well take him, especially because you had 2 first round picks. And then, like I said, Cooper Kupp, I thought probably should go in the mid 4th round or so, and he went in the 3rd. But I know you guys disagree with that. So, all right. So, Rob, why don't you go ahead and talk to us and tell us who you thought slid?
The first guy I'll come at you with is a guy I thought was a top 5 player for sure, Malik Hooker, the Ohio State safety. With the range and ball skills he has, and we haven't seen range and ball skills like that since Ed Reed, the fact that he fell all the way to 15 in Indianapolis still surprises me. I can't believe LA Chargers passed on him. And I think it was a best case scenario situation for the Colts to get a day 1 game changer on the back end. So I was pretty surprised he slid. Desmond King sliding all the way to the 5th round, who the Chargers took. I had a late 2 on Desmond King. The NFL world did not agree with me. But his instincts and his ball skills, I think I thought he was a guy who could come in and play a little nickel or play safety like day 1. And the fact that he slid to the 5th round of the Chargers, I thought that was really good value. Maybe I'm not seeing the same things that scouts are seeing, but I couldn't believe how far he slid. And I'll throw one more name at you guys. Forrest fell to the Chargers. There was some mock drafts out there that like had him going top 10. And I didn't think he'd get past 15 because he's a plug and play. Like he's Zach Martin 2.0. His movement skills, he's just the ideal NFL guard in today's game. And the fact that the Chargers scooped him up in the 2nd round was awesome.
Yeah, no, I was really surprised that Desmond King and Malik McDowell. I guess Malik McDowell just really hurt himself at those combine interviews.
He was horrendous at the combine interviews.
Yeah.
Multiple teams said he was the worst one there. So,
well, I mean, Dede Westbrook got kicked out of one apparently.
Really?
So,
I
yeah.
did not know
he's
that.
got problems too.
Yeah. And he went to the Jaguars. That's a reach because Dede Westbrook is kind of, according to reports, he's not exactly the greatest person.
He's also
Also-
a teammate.
Yeah.
And the Jags have enough receiver talent already. I thought it was a weird pick.
Yeah. All right. So, Grant, why don't you go ahead and tell us who you thought slid?
I agree with Rob on a couple of picks, mainly Malik Hooker, my 4th overall player. I think his labrum, having the torn labrum, was a bit of a question for some teams, and some teams probably questioned his ability to come up and hit people in the box. And then Forrest Lamp, my 13th overall player, I had a mock where I had him going to the Chargers at 7 in the 1st round. So they got him in the 2nd round for me is ridiculous. I think he's a Pro Bowl guard. I mean, I see that as very, very likely. A couple other guys, O.J. Howard falling to 19 was a bit interesting. I thought he was a top 15 guy at the very least. Obi Melifonwu to the Raiders in the 2nd round. The Raiders were considering him with their 1st round pick. He was my 27th overall guy, and they got him at number 56, which is 30 picks later than where I had him, which is an entire round, and that is phenomenal. He is an A+++ athlete. And then a couple later guys, Bucky Hodges, who we talked about going in round 6. I thought that was very late. He has the pass catching and route running skills to be a very good tight end in this league. And then a 7th round pick, Noah Brown by the Cowboys. He actually cracked my top 100. I think he was 99th or 98th on my top 100. I had a late 3rd, early 4th grade on him. They got him in the 7th round of the draft. height, weight, speed guy, contributor on special teams to start. But I think he could be a great deep threat for the Cowboys. Even though Dak doesn't really throw deep that much, he's more of a manage the game, make smart decisions. I think he could be a really good burner and get you 6-7 touchdowns a year.
Yeah. The Cowboys had a pretty good draft.
They had a very good draft. I almost picked them for my best team.
Yeah, no, and my roommates were ecstatic because they're Cowboys fans, which is a good segue because I think one of the biggest slides for me is Chidobe Awuzie, who went to the Cowboys right in front of the Steelers. I think if the Cowboys didn't pick Awuzie and he was there, I think the Steelers would have taken him. I think Juju, in one of my articles that I wrote kind of recapping this draft, Juju Smith-Schuster to the Steelers kind of screams best player available. I think they would have taken Awuzie if he was there. Like I already said, Dalvin Cook, top 15 guy, got taken by the Vikings at 41. Possibly he's a literal offense changer. Nathan Peterman, people were talking about some of these lesser quarterbacks going day 2. He went in the 5th round to the Bills. Caleb Brantley slid because of obvious reasons to the 6th round, but he's a 2nd round talent. What I thought was interesting about Caleb Brantley is Sashi Brown came out and said they might not even keep him on the roster for very long, depending on how this shakes out. But if I don't know what actually happened that night, but if it turns out that Brantley is not a terrible person, that's an incredible value pick.
He had character and questions before that incident too, so I was surprised he got drafted, honestly.
Yeah, I mean,
Me too.
But it's up to the Browns. I hope the Browns do the right thing, whatever that ends up being. Because we don't know anything outside of what the internet tells us. And then obviously Malik McDowell. I'm surprised the Seahawks took him because I guess they think Russell Wilson has incredible stamina and is just going to be able to run for every offensive snap that the Seahawks take.
And they passed on Forrest Lamp to get him too, which was very interesting.
Yeah, they could have taken Cam Robinson. They could have
Ramczyk too.
Yeah, it's
very curious. They must not be worried about his character, or maybe they want to convert him to right guard, like all their other defensive line prospects.
Well, I think Seattle is a great locker room for him to go in with, like Cliff Averill and Michael Bennett. It's Michael Bennett, right? Or is that the tight end?
Michael Bennett, yeah. Martellus is the tight end.
There you go. So, I mean, those are the guys who I thought kind of slid there. Do you guys have anything you want to plug in real quick?
I would like to give a quick shout out to the Cleveland Browns. I know they've been the laughingstock of the league since they got brought back. What they have done this offseason has been really, really impressive. They said that they wanted to build their lines before they did anything else. They make sure that they keep Joel Thomas and Joel Bitonio. They get Zeitler from Cincinnati, which was a massive steal as a guard. They get David Njoku late in the 1st round as a tight end. They get Myles Garrett to pair it with Emmanuel Ogbah and get 2 really impressive defensive ends coming off the edge. They have built up their lines. They have accumulated a lot of picks, been really, really smart with how they moved around the draft. I think that they're not going to win this year, to be clear. They get DeShone Kizer in the 2nd round, obviously. Developmental guy, a lot of tools that I really, really like. I think he can be a developmental guy. I'm just worried about who's going to be coaching him in that locker room. I mean, obviously, Hugh Jackson has done some good things with quarterbacks like Carson Palmer, but I'm worried about the veteran presence or the lack thereof in the quarterback room for DeShone Kizer. But next year, they have 2 first-round picks and 3 second-round picks next year. And that's going to be a loaded quarterback class from what I've seen. Josh Allen at Wyoming looks like a good prospect. Josh Rosen at UCLA if he rebounds from his sophomore year. And then you've got the guy everyone's kind of crowning right now as the number 1 guy in Sam Darnold at USC, who are potentially all could be available in next year's draft. And they certainly have the capital to go up and get one of those guys if they really like him. So Cleveland, shout out to you guys. A+ offseason for you so far. Got some good UDFAs, good value throughout the draft. So just wanted to give a shout out to the much maligned Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, no, they did some good things this past weekend. So I think that's gonna do it, right? Rob, you didn't want to plug anything?
No.
I don't have anything guaranteed to come out in the next day or two. So
Okay. All right, guys. So I think that's gonna do it for this show and this season of this show. We're not really gonna be doing anything else. Otherwise, I mean, we would just be talking about teams, and I don't know. It could go, if we were to talk about every team, it would go on for way too long. So we're going to be wrapping up this show for now. We'll come back next draft season. So be sure to check out all of our content on armchairallamericans.com. We've got a lot of great writers putting out some great stuff about their teams. I know I just released one kind of talking about the Steelers draft. So be sure to check out that as well as our other podcast, Armchair Express. We kind of took a couple-week break, but we are returning this week. And be sure to follow the Armchair All-Americans on Twitter at AC All-Americans, as well as Armchair NFL at Armchair NFL. We are on iTunes, both us and Armchair Express. Go ahead and subscribe to both of them. And I think that's going to do it. See you guys.